Hey, our next guest is Heather Dolland Tamam and is the author of a book called Pivot, because life doesn't always go as planned. Is that the truth or what, right? Heather actually refers to herself as a serial entrepreneur and has 4 tips on how we can actually navigate through the pivots of life. Heather, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I am doing very, very well. How are you guys doing this morning?
We're fantastic. When we think of pivot, we think of that Friends episode. Pivot, pivot. Pivoting is so important in our life because if we're on that same track and we think that life's going to go our way, we're going to be surprised. You have actually pivoted several times in your life, and you actually have some tips on how we can pivot gracefully, because you can do it wrong. First, before we explain how you do that, but what are some of those pivots that you experienced in your life so we can kind of have somewhat of a basis?
So the first point based on my first pivot is that every experience in life is a stepping stone. My education story, my immigrant story factors significantly into all of this. I came to New York from Grenada to study architecture. And just when I thought it's the end of my 5-year degree, I find out that my thesis jury failed me after I had a thesis professor advising me every single step of the way.
Oh, wow.
That is not something anybody wants to hear when you have like 5 months left on your visa and you have to be done. And it's like, well, I did everything I'm told to do. And I think that was my first understanding how to perform, essentially my first pivot. It was really just out of necessity. And bringing on this second point, which is that, failure is part of the journey. I ended up having to figure out, okay, this is what I need to do in order to finish the semester. This is what I need to do in order to be able to graduate. But then I ended up doing my master's, and that just created that opportunity. So there are opportunities that can come with failure. It doesn't have to be the end. And it's not a bad word, failing. Once you figure, all right, this is not perfect, which brings me to my third point, on the idea of giving up on perfection.
Sure.
But you figure out what to do as you're going along the way, because that's what life is, right?
Well, I would imagine so. I'd like to go back to that failing thing. It kind of reminds me of, I hear people that go through rehab, a lot of them feel like they have to slip off of rehab to realize how much they're screwing up in order, basically rock bottom again. And it's actually part of basically, giving something up. So failing is that important. But when you say giving up on perfection, it seems like, is it one of those where we go, well, don't shoot for the stars, or just know, hey, it's not going to be exactly as planned? Is that what you're saying?
I think a lot of people think that they have to know the outcome before they even start.
Okay.
And you end up with what we know as analysis paralysis, right? Everything has to be perfectly lined up. But in life, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
And often you don't know where the challenges are until you start to do. You think you could just sit back and it's like, well, when this happens and when this happens.
Yes.
And, many years ago, someone told me, don't let perfection be the enemy of good. And you don't act because, oh, well, this isn't exactly the way that I want it to be. But only when you start to do, that's when the doors start to open. You start to see those opportunities that you may not have seen.
I agree.
You just open yourself up. Yes, perfection is not a thing. Give up on that, just move forward.
And I would imagine is that, sometimes if you have a failure or you don't go that way of perfection, you're thinking, well, I'm done. That's it, I'm over. But you're saying rebounding is, knowing that you can is just as important.
Absolutely. And that brings me to my fourth point, and I think probably the biggest one, which is trust your ability to get back up. If you're embracing the fact that, failure is going to be part of this journey, it is what it is, but it's not even about that. It's about the fact that you're going to be able to get back up, and you focus on that, then everything is just, again, it's a stepping stone. It's all part of your journey. And so at this point, this is actually my third book, and I'm on actually my third career. Because I'm like, all right, I'm evolving. I'm casting a wide net, staying open and receptive, I often like to say, right?
Heather, you have so many great ideas. You can find them all in your book. And if you want folks at home, you want to find out how you can get it, just go to heatherdollandtamam.com. We'll have this link on our website. Heather, thank you so much for joining us here on Daily Flash. Again, our website has the link where you can find out more. Get ready to pivot as I pivot over to Andrea.